as I drop it over. There we go. All right, so real quickly, why do you want to be a justice on the Ohio Supreme Court?
Sure. I am someone who believes strongly that we need to have a judiciary in Ohio that applies the laws as written, that sticks to the Constitution, to make sure everyone is treated fairly by applying the same principles, the same legal rules to whoever's before the court. And if you believe that, the place that, as a judge, you can have the most impact in the Ohio judicial system is on the Ohio Supreme Court, because the Ohio Supreme Court is the court of last resort. It's the, all the other courts follow the precedent set by the Ohio Supreme Court.
Can you, in kind of layman's terms that an everyday person would understand, kind of explain your philosophy or approach to the bench? You hear a lot about judicial activism or making law from the bench.
Sure.
What's your approach to that?
I would be the opposite of a judicial activist. I don't believe that the role of a judge is to make the law. That's why we elect legislature. The people's job is, through their elected representatives, is to make the law in Ohio. Our job as judges is simply to apply the laws as written. So I'm someone that sticks to the plain language of whatever's in front of me, whether it's a contract, whether it's a statute, a law passed by the representatives, or whether it's our Ohio or United States Constitution.
You ran, there won't be party affiliations on the November ballot, but there were in the primary. You ran as a Republican.
Sure.
Do you think party labels should be on the general election ballot or on the primary ballot?
We have a unique system in Ohio. I'm a professor at the University of Cincinnati. This is one of the topics we study in class. We're the only state that does it this way, having a nonpartisan general election and partisan primary. I think ultimately that's up to the voters. If they would want to change the system, then they're free to do that. But I think our system works fairly well right now in Ohio.
I hear a lot from people saying, the political party doesn't really affect, I don't know how to put this the right way, but just because you're Republican doesn't mean you're going to vote a certain way on, or rule a certain way from the bench. How does being a Republican, because that's what you ran for in the spring, affect how you approach your legal work from the bench?
It really doesn't. And if you have the philosophy I have, which is that you stick to the text of what's in front of you, the text isn't Democrat or Republican. The plain language isn't a party. So if you apply that, if you have that philosophy, it really doesn't affect what we do.
Okay. I know it's hard to get kind of answers on specific issues, but I'm asking every candidate about the death penalty. How do you approach that issue, or how would you approach that issue from the bench at the Supreme Court?
Sure. I was a trial court judge before I was on the appellate court and presided over death penalty cases. Our job on the Supreme Court is to apply the law of Ohio. Right now, the law of Ohio is the death penalty, so we will review those cases. I will review those cases carefully. But our job is not to decide whether the death penalty should or should not be the law. It is the law, so our job is to apply the law and make sure that if there's death penalty convictions that come before the Ohio Supreme Court, that the defendant has been treated fairly and consistent with the law, and to review the evidence that was presented based upon the law of Ohio.
What would you bring to the Ohio Supreme Court that's not there already?
Sure. I think I bring a depth of legal experience that's really no one else has. I have a fairly unique career. Graduated in the top 10% of my class from one of the top law schools in the country. Because of that, I was able to be selected to work on the United States Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit. I'm the only person running who's been both a trial judge and an appellate judge. So I've not only been on the Court of Appeals, but I've actually been in the courtroom. I've tried everything from low-level felonies to death penalty cases to all manner of civil cases. And I'm a professor. I teach law at the University of Cincinnati Law School, and I also teach undergrads, Ohio government class, and an American courts class. But beyond that, legal and practiced law for 13 years with one of Cincinnati's top law firms, handled cases in courts across the country. aside from that judicial experience, I have also done a few other things. I was on Cincinnati City Council, so I've been on the local government in a tough urban environment, and I was Hamilton County Commissioner, the county where Cincinnati is. So I was a county commissioner in one of the three biggest counties in Ohio. So I understand, I think, in a way maybe that others don't, how the decisions the courts makes really affect the health, the vibrancy of our local communities.
You're in kind of an unusual position. If you're elected to the bench, you may be sitting there while your dad is bringing cases over for the state. Do you recuse yourself in those cases, or?
Sure. You know, that's a situation that I confront now on the Court of Appeals. In fact, I was a judge before I became, or excuse me, I was a judge before he became Attorney General. So when he took office, I checked with the Ohio Supreme Court, got their ethics advice, and the advice I got was that I didn't need to recuse myself if a member of his office was trying a case or had a case before him. But if the Attorney General himself would, then I would need to recuse myself. Now, that's never happened. Ordinarily doesn't try cases before the Ohio Supreme Court. But if there were that situation, or if there were some other situation that presented a unique circumstance, then I would certainly recuse myself. But as a general rule, I do not use that.
Not to get into attacks or anything, but why are you a better pick for voters than the person you're running against?
I think first experience, I have a much broader experience, having been both a trial judge and appellate judge, and also the service, also practicing the top levels of civil law and service in the other branches of government. The second reason, I think, would be if you look at are the quality of our opinions. If you look at, and voters can go to the Ohio Supreme Court's websites and they can read both of our opinions and they can compare. And I think what you'll see about mine are that they are written in plain English. They present a clear and consistent legal philosophy, and they decide cases based upon the rule of law. I think if you compare our work, I think that I think the voters can make their own choice based upon that. So, the other thing I would say is, we have, I think, because of philosophy, we have been supported by a very broad group of groups in this election, ranging from people like the Cleveland, Toledo Building Trades, the Tri-State Building Trades, Firefighters Union, the Ohio Police Benevolence Association, Cleveland, Toledo Police Unions, the Union of Operating Engineers, as well as folks like the NFIB, the Chamber of Commerce, the Farm Bureau, the Medical Association. I think that really that broad support, that broad support shows. I think should say to voters that Pat DeWine is someone that people from across the spectrum can support.
There are going to be people who look at the Bar Association recommendations that came out, believe you weren't recommended. What's up with that? What happened in that? And how do you respond to that?
There have been actually 3 other bar associations that have done recommendations. 2 of those rated me as excellent. One rated me as good. The organization, I think the thing that voters really should remember is the judges need to be running the courtrooms for the benefit of the public, not for the benefit of the lawyers. And lawyers and the public don't always have the same interests. I think if you look at that specific bar association, it's a very flawed process. They don't choose a group of people that are balanced. They don't have an equal number of Republicans or Democrats. They don't have people who are completely non-affiliated as part of the group. It's a group made up of elected people, appointed people, and does not strive to have that nonpartisan balance.
Okay.
And I think if you look at the other bar associations that have the endorsements, I think you'll see that in a fair process, I do very well.
What do you say to the Ohio voter out there who is totally focused on the presidential election, usually skips the Supreme Court? What do you say to those folks?
Our courts really matter. We only have 7 justices on the Supreme Court. Those folks that are there have a huge impact upon the safety of our communities, because they're deciding all kinds of criminal cases, the health of our economy, because the court creates the environment where people can create jobs, people can invest in the state. If we have an act in the Supreme Court, then it's bad for Ohio's economy. People don't want to create jobs in the state. And it also matters at the most basic level of protecting your individual rights, making sure that our constitutional guarantees are honored. So I would urge voters to spend a little bit of time. I know everything for the presidential election, as they should, in the U.S. Senate race and local races, but don't forget about the Ohio Supreme Court, because it really does matter.
That was really fast. Is there anything else you want to make sure voters know about you or about the race?
I always tell people that I'm the father of 5 teenagers, so when I go to the Ohio Supreme Court, I'll bring lots of experience adjudicating disputes with me.
Nice.